everybody, it's Jenny, and today I'll be sharing some cards I made using the Coffee Lovers release from Not Too Shabby. These stamp sets were also part of May's Box of the Month kit, and I'll leave the link below to nottoshabbyshop.com if you're interested in checking out next month's, which becomes available on June 1st. So the two stamp sets I'll be using are called I Heart Coffee and Drink the Coffee, and I'm first going to start out by creating my own pattern background using the I Heart Coffee stamp set. So first I trimmed down a piece of 80-pound Neenah cardstock in half, and I'm just going to use most of the images from the stamp set and stamp them onto the paper a couple times until the whole thing is covered. I'm going to use VersaFine Clear black ink to get a nice crisp imprint, and then I'm going to rearrange the stamps again on the second half of the sheet until they cover the whole thing. Next, I'm going to add some black splatter using some black soot distress paint, and I'm just going to squish some of that onto an acrylic block and flick it across the paper using a paintbrush that I dipped in some clean water. And as you can see, I seem to have lured a wild cat with my splat box. But I think he found something better to do. But once I finished with the splatter, I just go ahead and hit that with my heat tool to speed up the drying. Next, I'm going to trim it down into 3 different pieces, and originally I had trimmed it down to about 2 7/8, but you'll see later that I trim it down a little more to about 2.5 inches. For the rest of my card panel, I'm going to create a couple layers for each card using the Coffee and Friends paper pad, as well as some black cardstock. After I have all of my papers picked out, I go ahead and trim down the next piece to 3 inches, and then the black cardstock, in this case I'm using white, but I end up switching it out, but I trim that down to 3¼ inches. And then the last piece I trim down to A2 size at 4¼ by 5.5 for each card. Next, I go ahead and start gluing everything together. For the sentiments, I brought in the Drink the Coffee stamp set and a piece of vellum, and heat embossed most of them onto the vellum using some black detail embossing powder. And then I'm just going to trim each of those down and pick which one I think fits best on each of the cards. So because my sentiments are on vellum, I brought in a sheet of double-sided adhesive and laid them down and trimmed them out so that I could attach them without having any glue showing. So I just went ahead and attached each of the sentiments in a different spot on each of the card fronts. And then I brought in some blue sequins and added 3 to each card. After I glued down the sequins on this card here in the center, I felt that my sentiment was a little too high, and to balance it out a little more, I just brought in some coordinating Copic colors to the background and colored in this heart to give it a little more interest towards the bottom. And then for the very last step, I went ahead and added each of the card fronts to a card base, and that completes my 3 cards using the Coffee Lovers release from Not Too Shabby. And again, all the links to the Not Too Shabby shop can be found in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!